What's up, everybody? This is NorbCam coming at you on this Tuesday for another edition of Coach's Corner with Coach Bill Marsh. And today we are going to be talking about what's up here. What is up with Russell Wilson? What has changed? What's different about him? And how do we get the Seahawks back on track? That is going to be the topic of conversation today. So before we get into it, there's a couple preliminary things I want to make sure I get out of the way. The first of all is I want to thank my sponsor here, Daniel Dovin of Dovin Real Estate. I believe he's chatting it up as we speak. But Daniel Dovin right there, good-looking guy, Seattle area dude. But if you are looking to buy or sell a house here in the Seattle area, please give Daniel a call at 206-310-3362 and check out his information there in the description. You set up a one-on-one conversation and a consultation, and if you do, you'll be entered to win a Cortez Kennedy rookie card just for talking to him. All right, so he's a good guy. He'll take care of you, and he knows his Seahawks as well. So how cool is that? Chef Jack Attack in the Super Chat says, yes, let's go. And I just want to remind everybody, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love it if you smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well and the notification bell. That would be awesome. All right, let's get right into it. And I want to introduce, of course, the star of Coach's Corner, Coach Bill Marsh. Welcome back, Coach. It's good to see you, man.
Hey, it's always great to see you. Excited to have this conversation. I think it's fun that we're going to do a little hyper focus on, obviously one of the greatest players and athletes that we have, in the history of Seattle sports. But before we even go to that, man, just congratulations on another fun week. I know you just got a lot of things going, and you're doing some great stuff with Madden now and taking things into the off season. So I just love the fact that you're keeping the energy going and keeping people excited about football during the off season, which is a hard thing to do. But I think people are still feeling the emotions, right? Even for myself, I'm kind of the postseason blues like I used to have as a coach, where the season would end and I'd be like, when are we going to start feeling great again about things? You want to have perspective, but man, you lose a game like that. This one seems to feel like it's lingering with a lot of people more than it has, and then with the OC change. So again, congrats on things that you continue to evolve with, but I think this is a great way to kind of start into our off season, starting to look at some individualized situations, starting today with Russ.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into it. So before we do, because I know you're going to deep dive, you're going to go deep into the weeds and break a lot of things down. But before we do, I just want to shout out. Today is one of the greatest Seahawks of all time's birthday. And I'm talking about number 71, the best to ever do it, left tackle, Walter Jones, celebrating his birthday today. And so with the help of a good friend of mine, Tyler Fryer, who runs Soulmate, who does a lot of swag for me over in Germany. He's good friends with Walter. He asked me, hey, man, is there any way we can do like a song tribute? Something about the Hall of Fame. I got this song. Could you do something with it? And I was like, well, yeah, man, let's do it. So I whipped it together yesterday, and I put a video just in time for him to send him this birthday message. And I want to share it with you guys. So here is the tribute to Walter Jones on his birthday, the Hall of Fame. Check it out.
My name is Walter Jones. Now let's put your hands up. This song is on fire. A birthday dedication from NORBCam and Tyler. You can be like Walter. Don't wait for luck. Dedicate yourself and you'll go find yourself standing in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And the world all knows your name. Yeah. Your candles for the brightest flame. Yeah.
There you go. Happy birthday, Walter Jones. The best to ever do it, man. Do you ever stop to think sometimes if we could have transported, gone back in time with the DeLorean and took Walter Jones from, like the 2000s and pulled him over here and said, hey, we meet Russell Wilson. He needs a little protection on his left side. Well, imagine what we could have accomplished by now if we could have had Walter Jones protecting Wilson's backside. I know that blind side. I know that there's only one of five, but man, that's one guy who was amazing in his time, right?
Oh, no doubt about it. And as a guy who's still likes to live to the glory days of the 80s, I think Walter and Hutch, but definitely Walt would have brought that 1.21 gigawatts of energy that we would have needed to, get him back to this area. Because I've watched so much film on that guy. Because I'm a big believer in the trenches, right? I used to call them the pillars of power, the offensive linemen. And we'd have our pillars of power as lead our stretches. They would, they were our captains. They were all those things. So they don't get the credit in the newspapers, and on the internet stuff now, but back to the newspapers that they should have. So I always tried to find ways to give him the credit. But Walter Jones was just one of the great all-time people, in terms of just who he was. But man, you watch some film of what that guy used to do. Talk about a third level blocker. I mean, there were so many times where, he wouldn't just make the play at the line of scrimmage, but he'd go to the linebacker and then he'd get out even to the safety. I mean, it was just incredible how quick and fast that guy was. And for those who maybe knew, there's a difference between quick and fast. Fast is more straight ahead, quick is your lateral. He had both. And if you go down to a sideline situation or to a practice and you see the size of those guys, it's amazing how quick they move. And he was just in another level. And that's why he has the yellow jacket.
Yeah, he was amazing. I had the opportunity, obviously, to meet him on a couple of different occasions, but a really nice, gentle of a giant. But like you said, just amazing how good he was, how strong he was, how quick he was. And I remember, I can't remember the number, but the number of holding penalties he had in his entire career, I think it's less than 20. I think it's like 13 or something like that. Unreal. Something crazy when you had like one player doing it that many in like 5 games. I mean, it was anyway, so let's jump into it. First, I got to recognize one of our mods, Alina Dahl, says Walter Jones to be our new OC would be a real great birthday gift for him and us. That would be amazing. I think he's pretty happy in the analyst chair right now, but still great to have him in the community. But talking about analysts, we got you. And we got to get into this thing now because unfortunately, Walter Jones isn't coming back here to help us. So we're going to have to figure out how to do it ourselves. So let's jump into it, Coach. I'm going to let you take the reins here and just tell us, what is wrong with Russell Wilson? What's wrong with this offense? And can we reverse it?
Well, the answer is yes to start with. I think obviously the excitement is, now that we don't have a coordinator, and I really wish that we hadn't, and I'll give a little bit of reasons, some rationale behind that. But now that you are looking for one, I thought it was pretty interesting when Russ said, that he feels like he needs to be a part of who that is. And so, right off the bat, this is going to be a little bit different coach's corner from a standpoint of I'm not going to do as much telestration as much as I'm going to do a little bantering back and forth with you, Norb, as well as, if people want to put stuff in the super chat. And I know people may think that you and I pre-plan all this stuff. What I love about this show is that you do let me take the reins, and most of the time you don't know what's coming. So it's going to be fun there. So I just found it very interesting. When Russ said that, I always think you got a team that's looking for, they're looking for a coordinator. And I'm going to hark back to the Legion of Boom group, right? And so when it started to fall apart after that second Super Bowl and egos started getting in the way a little bit and guys started going on their own, everything went from we, us, are to me, my, I. It went from we, us, are to me, my, I. And I always used to say, we, us, are is always greater than me, my, I. Well, we get in a situation here where, yes, Russ, the type of money he makes, he should have an opportunity to have some say. But there's two components to this, Norb, that I want to kind of throw it back at you a little bit. The first one has to do with the three big, the big three. You got a GM, sign an extension. You got a head coach, sign an extension. And you've got your quarterback, who's planning on being here for the rest of his career, from what I can understand, from what the take is. Who gets to win in that power play, right? The quarterback wants to have some say, and most quarterbacks aren't going to go in and say, hey, I want a solid running game where we're just going to run the ball because I think I hand off really, really well. You got a head coach who's saying we need to run the ball more. And when I went back and listened to the post-game press conference a few times, he definitely let it be known that he wasn't going to bring back the coordinator. I hadn't picked up on it until I watched it a few more times since we last spoke. And then you have a general manager who doesn't really come out and say what he wants from a scheme standpoint, has to support the coach, needs to keep a player happy. And now we're going into free agency. A lot of things are going to play out. So my first question for you there, Norb, is of those three, where do you see Russ in the not so much the pecking order, but how much do you think he's really going to have a say in who that coordinator is, knowing that you got two people that aren't on the hot seat, are probably going to be here for a long time, and you got two different dichotomies: head coach saying running game, and a quarterback who says he wants say.
Well, it's interesting. I never really thought about it. I think we always just think the decisions about staff and coaches always comes from the owner, if the owner's involved, the GM, and then the coach, and kind of in that order. And it really didn't come to light until we started hearing about the Deshaun Watson situation in Houston, where he said he was very upset because he didn't like the situation with the coach and then the hiring. He wasn't consulted. So that all happened like within just practically days before our own little mini controversy came up. So it wasn't until I saw the writing on that wall thinking, I wonder if that's going to kind of carry into this, because you got two guys who are in the peak of their careers, both in situations where we've had some issues with everybody being on the same page, and now we got personnel moving, and it just so happened they both are looking at hirings of pretty important staff people at the same time. And the Deshaun Watson thing just sort of stirred up that controversy, and it almost felt like Russell was just sort of following suit, because prior to this, I don't think we've really ever had him talk about who he wants to be a coordinator or anything like that, at least not from my memory. So normally I never think the player has that part of it, but now it feels like it's kind of become thrown out there for better or for worse.
Yes, and I think that it's for worse. When I heard that, it was something that it's part of the evolution of Russ. And when I say for worse, it's not saying, again, I'm going to preface everything today with this so I don't have to repeat it. I love Russ, the person, right? I love what he does for our community. I love that he's a Seattle Seahawk. I hope he plays for us the rest of the time. But the conversation today is, what do we feel is needed to make Russ better? I think when players get into a position where all of a sudden they feel like they are a player coach or a player general manager or a player owner, I heard the best comment I heard today in all the sports stuff that I was watching was someone talking about Tom Brady and saying the best organization in sports is Tom Brady. The best organization in sports is Tom Brady, and he's the only individual that could be an organization. Because when you think of a Tom Brady, yes, forget the stuff that people say on a negative standpoint, or if they think they cheat or whatever. But he's deferred salary. He's able to get people to come in. He just does a lot of the right things, and he's won, and he's gotten to the Super Bowl a ton of times, and he does all this different stuff. With Russ, when you get in a position where you're starting to feel like you can dictate policy, or you're kind of playing the leverage card, or that, hey, because I make the most money, therefore I should have say because I'm a quarterback in this. There's a lot of mind when he was talking in his post-week press conference from whatever vacation spot he was in. So when he's talking about, we're talking about my career here. We're talking about my next 10 years here, where we're talking about a lot of things that I want to be able to do. And then he started talking about we need to do this. And he gets into his banter where he's going a million miles an hour, and it's about, cliche. But then you could tell that he's talking from the heart, but he's also speaking, just stuff that you just can't really, it just doesn't make sense, right? I mean, you're not going to score 28 points in the first quarter of every game. So when he's out, we need to just spread it around and get, we should be jumping on people and getting 28 points ahead in the quarter and blah. It's like, that's not reality. So that was concerning to me, number one. Second side, Norb, would be, man, ask any lineman in the history of linemen, from pros to the college ranks, to the high school ranks, to the youth ranks, to whatever, 100% of the offensive linemen, if you ask them what type of scheme they would want, do you think they would choose pass or run? And it's okay if you get this wrong.
Well,
but 100% of them are going to say
linemen like to charge ahead, put their hand in the dirt, and push the guy backwards. And I don't know any lineman who would say, "I'd love to pass block. That's my favorite thing."
No doubt about it.
Because immediately you just start retreating. I know these guys like to just plow ahead and bull guys over. So I'm pretty sure that's what the answer would be, right?
Yeah. And I've seen your videos with Kristyn. I know the difference between a guy who wants to retreat and doesn't want to retreat, and you guys are battling each other, and then you're trying to get him into retreat mode, right? Same situation. For offensive linemen, they want to get down in that 3-point stance. Shoot, they want to get into 4-point stance. There's actually some teams this year that I saw that when it was getting into 4th and 1, and I love it. If I ever got back into coaching, I would implement this every time. And I don't recall which teams it was, but the two teams, 4th and inches or 4th and 1, they would get down into 4-point stances, both hands on the ground, to get them lower than the defensive players. And I just thought that was fantastic, because linemen love to come out, and they outweigh each other. They outweigh the defensive linemen now. The difference is becoming larger and larger, because now your defensive linemen have become hybrid linebackers, just like your linebackers have become more hybrid safeties, right? So the game's evolving, but your linemen are still big and huge. So, so my point is, Russ says he wants to have input. Well, if I'm an offensive lineman, I'd like to have some input. If I'm a running back, if I'm Carson and I come back, I'd like to have some input. DK wants to have some input, but then, So who gets to, if Russ gets to have to say, you're going to have other people that have to say, and they're going to have different things. So it just, to me, it sets up, if he wants to say that behind closed doors, I have no problem with that. Man, going to Pete and say, hey, like, I really want to have a part of this. That happens all the time. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it that the quarterback has to say, and they should have some, at least they should be in the know, in my opinion. However, not to go out publicly and do that, because to me, it's another chance to cause what happened a few years back. So that's something that is really concerning me to start off with Russ, but it's part of a trend that I've seen with him ever since the interception in the Super Bowl. And I hate to bring that point up, but we've been kind of ignoring it all season long, or all half season since I came in. And ironically, since I came in, Norb, our defense got a heck of a lot better, and our offense got a heck of a lot worse. Just those transition points right when I started joining the show.
So it's your fault.
Well, I'm going to take credit for the defense.
Okay.
Take credit for the defense, and we're going to talk about how to fix the offense. So, but ever since that play happened, and I'm going to read something real quick based on those games. So if we go before that game, the interception game, right? We go back to the three series of playoffs, 2013, 2012, 2013, 2014.
Right.
Because that was Russell's first year. So that first year, we're putting up points, right? We got 28, 24, and then 2013, 43, 23, 23's offense, 2014, 24, 28, 31, and then that's when we end up losing the game. I'm sorry, we had 28. So now you go into the defensive side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, what happened in that situation back then was our defense was giving up less than 17 points a game. They were just giving up just over 16 points in those games. So offensively, scoring a lot, defensively, holding them really tight. You flip it to the last few years. We've been put in a situation, and I watched basically all the highlights from every single one of these playoffs games since last week. Just focusing on what happened as we got into the playoffs, and then we'll talk about kind of regular season, kind of what happened. Well, what happened once we got into the playoffs was in 5 of the last 7 games, we ended up falling behind by 10 or more points. Now, how many regular season games do you recall in the last 3 years? All the regular season games where we fell behind by more than 10 points in games. Very rare did it happen. So the playoffs became a microcosm of what I've seen in the season macrocosm, which is we start off, we're trying to find our way, but then just take a nosedive the second half of the season offensively, and Russ really takes a nosedive. Same thing starts to happen, but the opposite direction in the playoffs. Russ starts off with the nosedive really, really slow, and then he gets these crazy stats in the fourth quarter where we're coming back. I mean, you remember we played in Carolina, we're down 31 to 7, and 31-0, and then we come back, and then we make it, and it's down to an onside kick, and then we go to we go to Green Bay, and we're down 23 to 6, and then we come back and we lose 28-23. Dallas Cowboy game. Basically, they're kind of crushing us the whole game. We just can't get anything going. And then the fourth quarter, we make some things happen. Minnesota game, we win 10-9, but it's the frozen tundra, and they miss a field goal. But if I look at the points that we scored, it's 9 points, 17 points, 16 points, 20 points this last game. So from an offensive standpoint, we have an issue with the playoffs. So when it comes to the regular season with Russ, here's what I'm seeing. A guy who's become undisciplined and held unaccountable. And it's not just from one coordinator. It's happened with multiple coordinators where Russ is able to just start kind of doing his own thing. And I'm going to show some film here in a second of where I think, not so much on Russ, but we're going to look at some film from some other teams, because people are wondering, like, what do we need to do and what does Russ need to do? Russ is having issues with staying present. And by present, I mean staying present with the play. So if people want to complain about the play calling and those things, there are plenty of plays that we run where guys are open, where Russ made the plays earlier in the season. But then as we get to the midpoint of the last 3 years, he massively struggles, because all of a sudden he starts feeling kind of overconfident, and he stops seeing what was there. And to kind of combine it a little bit with the coordinators, I think coordinators stop making changes to what we're doing. And I don't want to get too much into the adjustments of what we do. But here's where I don't think Russ has evolved. And I don't know if it's so much Russ or if it's on specific coaching of Russ. Because when I look at other quarterbacks, Russ doesn't know what he doesn't know, right? He's only in a situation where whoever's coached him, that's how he understands the game of football. And if the game of football represents everything there is to know about a football, and I draw a circle on it, as I did a few weeks back, I draw a circle on it, and that represents everything I know, and Russ has a bigger circle of everything he knows maybe, but someone has just a dot, that's all they know, and someone has a little bit more, but there's all these different things. And if Russ doesn't know all of the game of football, how does he know what he doesn't know? Meaning this, if we don't make adjustments and Russ doesn't know, hey, you can't be scrambling out of there all the time, or these are the switch-ups we need to make. You know, how many times in life do we go through something and then we go, oh, I didn't know you could do it that way. Look at Green Bay. They had McCarthy for years. Everybody thought he was a great coordinator. And all of a sudden now they get LaFleur, new offensive coordinator. Aaron Rodgers has come to life. He's 36 years old. He's having the greatest year of his life. Drew Brees, Sean Payton calls things and makes changes. Look what happened in Kansas City with Andy Reid. All sorts of teams where things take place. And I think Russ has been in a position where he doesn't know what he doesn't know. So when we're throwing deep the first half of the season, this is the last point I'm going to make. When he's throwing deep in the beginning of the season and we're just throwing it deep. And now all of a sudden teams start backing up and they're only rushing 5. And instead of saying, hey, we don't need to rush 8 anymore. We can cover with 7. Shoot, we can even cover it with 6. Let's cover it with 6, rush 4, and let's put a spy on Russ and just contain the edge like the Giants did. Teams that were with better defenses playing us said, you know what, he's not going to be able to handle it because he's not going to be a pocket passer. And yet he still tried to force the same stuff that he was doing the first half of the season. So that's my biggest point right now, is Russ not understanding how to make adjustments that other quarterbacks that are in their 8th, 9th, 10th year, they're not only making them, but they're changing them at the line of scrimmage. And I'd ask you, Norb, how often do you see Russ check at the line of scrimmage? And forget the play clock. Forget the issue with the play clock. How often do you really see Russ check a play like you see Peyton Manning used to do, Tom Brady's doing it, Drew Brees is doing it, Aaron Rodgers does it all the time, Mahomes does it. How often do you see him really check to a new play?
Yeah, seemingly not very often.
No, not very often at all. Now, is that coordinator saying, don't check us out of a play? I have a hard time believing that, right? A guy who's that smart, and he is a brilliant football player, but he just has some situations going on that now as I look at the coordinator that we might bring in, the different coordinators, I'm looking for that as the first and foremost piece that I want to see. A coordinator that's going to come in and hold Russ accountable to the offense that they're running. You can't be changing plays. You can't. It's great that you can move and scramble and do some of those things that you were doing the first couple of years, but you have to stay within the offense, as they like to say. And we saw that when we broke down the film last week, right? How many times people were wide open 8 to 10 yards right in front of him. And he was either scrambling or he was hyper-focused on somebody else, he missed the play. So there's a little bit of restructuring that has to take place up here with Russ, and that's not going to be easy when he's been doing it, kind of evolving the same way for quite some time. So I want to go into a little bit of, looking at both it from an offensive standpoint, what I'm hoping that we're going to bring in to help him, and what I hope we see Russ starting to do based on what I'm going to show you with some other quarterbacks and some other offenses in the league.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
So, all right, before you jump in there, so Chef Jack Attack says, coaching is a problem. I will tell you in Discord. So that's a good reminder that to everybody, if you want to join in and put a conversation on air live with Coach Marsh, you need to just do so by going to the Discords down below. It's also in the chat. You can click on the link. I have it pinned at the top, and you can get online here, and I'll take questions after this next section, and we'll try to get as many as we can in the middle, and then at the end if there's time. So
yeah, and I am going to touch a little bit on the coach as well. Obviously, we wanted to hyper-focus more on Russ and I think some offensive stuff, but I had so many thoughts. I mean, so many ways we could go with this.
Yeah.
Because obviously I have my feelings on coaching and those type of things, because there is a conflict right now. Quarterback who wants to throw and wants to cook, as they like to say, and I just wish we would get that out of our vernacular, and a coach who wants to really focus on running game. But I'm going to explain how those kind of morph together. And again, keep in mind, Russell's worst games, some of the worst games he's played, have been in some of our biggest wins. The Super Bowl that we won, arguably one of the worst games that he's played. The Green Bay Packer game that we won the following year, right? 4 interceptions, one of the worst games that he's played. So many of the bigger games, he just struggles with them, and it's really been our defense that's been what's kept us around until we get exposed. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to show you a couple things here. First off, what we're going to go into is I'm going to show you something. These are things I saw this weekend, and I apologize, everybody, if the film comes across a little grainy. I really apologize for that. But I think you'll understand the concept of what we're looking at. Sean Payton, New Orleans Saints, playoff game. Everybody's been wanting things like this to take place. And this is something that I think we need to have in our offense. And those of you that didn't watch it, there's a penalty flag, but it didn't matter. The touchdown counted on this. But here's the thing. You have a play where it starts with a backup quarterback. And again, I'm not going to do so much telestrating as I'm just going to talk about it. The fact that they're willing to run a trick play and a trick play early, and as I spoke about last week, I love to be the guy who does it. Now, I think part of it has to do with you have to have gold grills. Like if you have gold grills, I think if we have more of those on our team, I think we're going to be in good shape.
How about snow cone? Will snow cone hair? Will snow cone hair suffice? Because we got that. Maybe not so much gold.
It might. Gold grills. So that's personality. So DK with the green hair, like I like that. Again, that's him. I mean, to me, I love that type of stuff. I'm always
matches the uniform.
I'm always looking for that type of Nicky Nick. But here's the reason why. Okay, you have a guy who's innovative. He's got his play card now. It doesn't matter to me if the head coach is calling the plays or there's an offensive coordinator calling the plays. But here's the difference. When you have a head coach who's calling the plays, and we'll come back to you here for a second. When you have a head coach who's calling the plays, it eliminates one chain of command, right? It eliminates one filter. Well, when you get an offensive coordinator in between a head coach and a quarterback, head coach is always going to run interference at times. And even I used to say, and that's why there was only 2 years out of the 27 years that I coached that I wasn't an offensive coordinator as well as being the head coach, because I didn't want to have that extra situation because it put my coordinators in a position where I knew I was going to, maybe change something on a fourth down play or change something on a goal to go. That 90% of the time I'm letting them do what they want to do. But when it's a big play, things on the line, and it falls on all of our shoulders, our community, everything else, I have to make that call and trust that, I'm going to trust what the quarterback's going to do. Well, Pete has said on many occasions, hey, look, I got in the way of that play. There were 2 games last year where he readily said after press conferences, I jumped in too much into the offense. So as we quickly talk about, coaching situations, I know that was a frustration for Schottenheimer because the first half of the season, Pete was not around so much in that arena of things. And then it was very evident, and he expressed as such, that he wanted things to change a little bit. He started getting involved, and now all of a sudden, who's really calling the plays, and it just takes a while. And I think that really can impact a Russ. So I like when a head coach is also calling the plays. So you get a guy like that who's doing that. And then we get to another playoff game that took place, and that was the Kansas City Chiefs game. Now, we all know that, Patrick Mahomes got hurt, and I hope to goodness he's okay. I hope he's able to play because I love watching that guy. But again, you look at their team, and they have all these great players and everything else, but I take an Andy Reid who's got a backup quarterback, and I'm looking at what this guy does, and this speaks to the culture that quarterbacks create for themselves. And I don't know that what you're about to see at the end of this play. I was scouring a ton of film, trying to find the best plays that Russ has done to see if I've seen after a play what I see after this one. From the standpoint of, does Russ have the respect? People love him. It's not about loving him. And yes, he buys them scooters and he posts them on Instagram so we can all see that he bought his lineman scooters, instead of just buying the guys some cool scooters with, blue and green out. Did you see those, Norb?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
That's
but
cool.
At the same time, I just want you to watch at the end when Henny makes this play, and he's late in the game. He's got to get the first down, and he comes up inches. But watch right here, lineman 1. There's the tight end. There's another lineman right there next to him. Here comes a lineman tapping him on the back, and here's the other lineman right here helping the official call the first down. Norb, I can't remember the time on a 10-yard play. Yes, it mattered. It was big with regards to the game, but they knew that effort and the energy and the quarterback was putting on the line for them to all be running down there to either help him up, high five him. I mean, to watch Travis Kelce just get so uber excited about this. Again, I don't see that, and I don't recall really seeing it. We saw it with guys like Marshawn. But, does Russ have that type of presence? And
I remember there was one play I remember. I think it was against the Colts, the same game that I think Cliff Averill got knocked out of. But it was a play where he scrambled and then he dove for the end zone, put the ball in and broke the plane, and he was all charged up and a lot of guys came up to him. That's the last time I can remember a real big, effort play where he didn't slide, he didn't run out of bounds. He really put, he was going to get in there. That's the last time I can think of a play that reminds me of that.
Well, and that's
what I'm talking about. You remember that play?
I know exactly which one you're talking about. And the reason why I don't consider that one the same as this is because that's he scored a touchdown and he's amped up and he's excited. But to me, there just wasn't the same presence of it's kind of like it was like a courtesy, right? Like, hey, I have to shake your hand, or man, I'm gonna high five you, pull you in, hug you, man, and those type of things. I'm just talking in life because you have a rapport and a relationship and you're just so amped up for that person, right? For that person. In that situation, Russ scores. And to me, that was more, hey, we're excited that we scored. And I said it's for us. We, us are. So we're excited for the team. That's great. This to me was, man, we are genuinely excited for you. Like, we're amped for you. You made a great play for us. You are not about you. You are about we, us are. You're showing that you're about we, us are. So, do we see that often? So what does this do on their 4th and 1 play, right? That comes up after this. Well, here's this guy, right? I mean, talk about ice in your veins. I mean, people used to always kind of shred Andy Reid because he couldn't win the big game, right. Couldn't do those things. And now it's 4th and inches with a backup quarterback. You got the guy who absolutely, finally showed why he's the second best color commentator to your dad. Because for 28 of the 30 seconds that are going on here, Romo is saying, well, they're just going to draw him offside. And instead, 4th and inches. And for those of you that didn't watch, I mean, this is a play that they can put it away here. They could punt it. Everybody's thinking punt. I'm thinking they're going to draw him offside or try to and punt it. And you could tell that Cleveland knows that. So that's why they're not getting down and ready. This to me speaks to the trust that someone has in a player. And I don't know that our coordinator and our head coach have the trust in Russ that we used to. I don't know that our fans have the
isn't
trust.
Even Patrick Mahomes. This is the backup quarterback.
That's what I'm saying.
Running this game on the line. Potentially, if they don't get it, they give Cleveland the ball at their own 49-yard line. Gutsy as hell.
And Henny's a journeyman quarterback who's obviously shown something, throughout the course of the year. And I think when you don't have someone who's pressing you, and again, Henny's not pressing Mahomes for a starting job, but when you can just kind of come in and do your thing, and it's been Russ's team for quite a long time, again, this speaks to trust, faith. And again, would we do this in our conservative offense? No. And yes, our offense was wide open the first 8 weeks of the season, but I would still call it a conservative offense because we don't run the trick plays. We don't go for it on many downs. And when I talk trick, I'm not talking punts. Like, forget special teams right now as much as I love special teams. For them to call this play on 4th and inches, NFC Championship or AFC Championship on the line to get to the Super Bowl eventually, probably. I mean, just unbelievable what takes place here. I mean, it just fantastic. So, that's one of the pieces that, when I look at what Russ is looking to do, and I'm going to show you some stuff here in a second, I think is really going to open everybody's eyes to how Russ needs to be able to play and what he's severely lacking. Like, people think that he's this phenomenal quarterback. And again, I feel like I have to be careful because I live in the same town as him. So I want to still be able to go to the grocery store, right? But I don't think that Russ is the upper echelon, top 5 to top 7 quarterback that everybody has made him out to be over the years. And I've always said that. So anybody who knows me knows that from his very first season, I have said that he is a great quarterback, but he doesn't fit in that Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, those categories. And I still feel like that if we had won that Super Bowl, that second Super Bowl, there'd have been a different mindset. Maybe the offenses, who knows how things play out. But I think it wouldn't have impacted his psyche the way it has, to the point where, you just get something happens to you in life and you become so fearful of making that same mistake twice. I mean, because it's so macro. That does it keep you from ever being able to be the same person you were again? We'll take that to the game of football. That interception was so huge, right? I mean, it's been rated the number one worst play call of all time, but there's still execution of the play, or check out of the play, or do something, right? So the fact that that took place, one of the worst plays ever, I think from that point forward, it has caused Russ to go into this situation where, hey, I can take some chances early. I can take some chances going on, but I'm going to really kind of hold back and do some other things, and keep us in the game. But then there's those other times, Norb, where he just throws the ball away, or he throws it up in these goofy situations where it's like, Russ, what are you thinking, man? Like, you can't be doing that in this type of situation. So I'm going to go to one last set of teams here, and I do want to take a few more sets of calls, because I think, listening to some thoughts from some people,
we've definitely got a few standing by. So we'll
so that's all I want to be able to get to that. So I'm going to show you the guy that I think has been the best quarterback for years. I mean, for years, I thought Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback. But this year, these last 2 years, the offensive coordinator, who's the head coach, LaFleur, comes in. And actually, let me come back right here, Norm. When he came in, he's out of the Shanahan tree, the Mike Shanahan tree. Well, who else in our division is out of the Shanahan tree? A guy by the name of Shanahan, right? And then you got a handful of other coaches who are extremely successful who are out of the Shanahan tree. Why is that important? Because there's a couple guys that we're looking at that I know we've talked to, of the 7 or 8 coordinators. 2 of them have ties to San Francisco. So for one thing, as a little sidebar, exit to the conversation, having a defensive coordinator, go away from a team, and then if you can have an offensive coordinator, you're always looking for that chess match, right? Let's get these other teams to lose their coordinators, even though we also lost one. But can we do addition by subtraction? But the Shanahan passing tree is part of the Bill Walsh, Mike Holmgren, passing tree. So you got Bill Walsh, and then you go to Holmgren, Mike Shanahan, and then you got coaches that come out from those guys, right? Well, they run the original West Coast offense, but they run it as a hybrid. It's not the 2-back, tight end, Jerry Rice, John Taylor. It's the 1-back, bootleg, sprint out. And Normal, I want to show everybody something that eventually I'll actually put out there for people to see. This right here, and it's a copy of it because I wouldn't bring the original itself. This is the actual West Coast offense that I received a copy of from Bill Walsh years ago at a clinic. It's got all the plays, it got all the breakdowns. I mean, it's literally the actual playbook of the West Coast offense that Bill Walsh ran. And at different times during this offseason, I'm going to bring out some of these and actually put them on screen and show you how this works, because it's such a part of the game now. It's coming back as part of the game. But here's my point. When they were running this West Coast offense, it was so intricate and so deep. And now the players that are doing it now and the teams that are still remaining and that are successful are teams that have coaches and coordinators and quarterback coaches who have thread lines all the way back to this West Coast offense. And so I think if we're able to find someone that can do that, it's going to do wonders for us, because it's play action, because it's bootleg. It allows people to move around. It's high percentage, and it's still a run first mentality. West Coast offense was always run first and then pass off of the run. That's what Pete Carroll wants. But what do we think about when we think about the greatest quarterbacks of all time? Joe Montana, Brett Favre, all those guys. We think of them as gunslingers, but They were on teams that were run first. So that when we're looking at what's going to help us, I think that'll be it. So let me show you.
That was my just an overall comment just watching the playoffs. Is every team that advanced, they all have great quarterbacks, but they all had great running games to go with it. That was the
New
thing.
Orleans Saints, Drew Brees. Everybody thinks the New Orleans Saints are like a 4 and 5 receiver set passing team. They have one of the best running backs in the league, and they are run first. These you still, I think forever it will always be. You have to run the ball, and play great defense to win championships, and you have to have a really good, above average to great quarterback. Sans every once in a while when you have a Ravens defense, that's one of the best of all time. A Chicago Bears defense is the best of all time. Every once in a while you got those teams that you can get away with an average quarterback, but for the most part you have to have this one. So that's why I want to show with Aaron Rodgers and what they've done with their offense. I so wish and I so hope that offense comes to us, because of the way Russ plays, and I think it's changed how Aaron Rodgers plays. It's evolved his game. So first play here, the first thing I wanted to show you is how on this one right here, tempo, timing, and tactics. Tempo, timing, and tactics. Those are the 3 T's that you want from an offensive coordinator, that I want from an offensive coordinator. Are our tactics such that we have not simple schemes, but simple enough schemes that quarterback understands it, everybody gets it, and we can just placate off of that? Is our timing as such that we can, get things in? Are we making things happen? And then our tempo. Do we do tempo changes? And I know that's where Russ is at his best when we do tempo changes. So you look at the early play here, Aaron Rodgers, again, West Coast offense, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and they've got 12 guys on the field. So what does Aaron do right away? Because he has the freedom to do this. Why do we not have the freedom to do this? I don't think Russ does. So to make Russ better, he has, if he's going to say, I want to be involved with the decision-making process, he has to say, I want to be involved with finding someone who does the things that Aaron Rodgers can do, that Drew Brees can do. Let me have the freedom. Because when there's 2 minutes to go in the game, Norb, I think Russ has 100% control of the offense.
Right.
The timing, the tempo, and the tactics. But that's the only time he's at his best. That's why at the end of games, he brings us back from 21 points in those playoff games. So let's look at a couple things here. Here it is, just a quick snap. They had 12 guys on the field. Rodgers, boom, he gets it. No problem there. Okay, here's another play here where as he's getting ready to drop back, simple scheme. The simple scheme of this play is from a standpoint that we have 4 receivers and a 5th that's going to come out there. Again, I would say 80% of their pass plays had something like this and maybe 1 guy going deep, not 3 or 4 guys going 15 yards. Look at the series of plays. You have out route, hit, dig route, or a hitch route, some people call it. You have this out route going here and a running back who's running a little Texas route across here. I mean, they're all coming open against the Rams, the same team that we were having so much trouble moving the ball against. And that's why I love having this little comparison piece. I mean, you could throw to anybody there. Okay, so here we go again. Very simple. Keeping it back in. They've got a tight end. So they've got basically they're using 7 guys. That's West Coast. It's hybrid West Coast offense where you're always kind of playing with 7 guys potentially blocking for you if needed. No, remember last week we were talking about how there was no running backs blocking?
Right.
I didn't understand, and this is a Russ piece. Does Russ not know what he doesn't know? Does Russ have the ability or the knowledge in the Seahawks offense, the way he's had them with the last few coordinators, of how to adjust offensive line protection schemes? The greatest of all time, or at least in our generation, was Peyton Manning. He mastered pass blocking schemes. He was constantly changing them with the line of scrimmage, and then he'd change them after changing them, right? Because he just understood how to get that type of protection. Again, we haven't seen that out of Russ. So I think that's a massive thing that he needs to learn. And so Rodgers, he checks to either a 5, keeps the 5 linemen there, keeps the tight end there, or keeps the tight end and a running back there, or he keeps a bunch of guys there. But again, simple stuff from a standpoint. I know it's hard to see because I'm sorry about the quality there. He basically just threw a sidearm pass. You can just barely see it. But his arm sling, he just throws it from the side. Reminded me of Dave Craig in the past. He used to throw kind of a sidearm sling. But notice that he's in a nice pocket and he's not panicking. The hot feet we see out of Russ over the last few years has been, if it's not there right away, boom, he's out of there in a hurry. Instead of just taking the nice, sure, easy thing and making just a simple pass to the flat and let your receiver, or making the swing route and let your receiver catch the ball, let your running back catch the ball, do his thing. Now, here, again, guys that are already at the very start of the play, they're open. 4-man rush like we were getting. What we have down here is a receiver who's, I think one of the best receivers that's ever played already. They're just getting wide open, but Norb, it's a simple slant route. Yes, he made look at the separation he's got on our guy.
Yeah, great release off the line, by the way.
Yeah, and it was so hard for me not to just do a piece on him. So either the next show or the following show, we're going to do some breakdowns on just some specific hardcore skill stuff that I think some of our players need to pick up that they'll just make it so much better. But again, it's a simple slant route. They weren't beating him with a bunch of crazy deep plays, but you know what this is setting up? It's setting up the opposite of what we've been doing. We've been trying to throw it deep. We were doing it the first 8 weeks of the season. And then when they backed up, you know what we didn't have? We didn't have a quarterback who was willing to throw the short stuff because he was so into let's score. And that's why it really bugged me when one of his comments was we need to be scoring 28 points right off the bat. That's not the NFL. Like, you cannot have that mentality. You can't have that mentality in high school football unless you're at the game that we kicked the 3 onside kicks in a row, right? So you have to be able to do that type of stuff. Here again, okay, sit in the pocket. And here I'm not even going to show the whole play. It's more from a standpoint of down the goal line, quarterback that's confident. It doesn't matter that he's played 8-9 more years than Russ. Russ is a veteran. You get past your 5th year, you either know the game or you don't. Okay, look at it. Look at how calm and level is. Just sitting there. And then this is my favorite part of this. where most guys would be bailing out right now. Rodgers is he's a quasi cocky guy. I mean, he is cocky, but he's cocky in a way that he's done it. He's been there. He's confident. He's respected. Nor watch what he does to the lineman who's coming right up in his face. Just watch Rodgers' helmet, and the D lineman's going to be right here, right? Dude, you see him pop forward? I'll watch it regular time again. Just watch as he comes forward on this. Hops forward and then goes back. Just that little bit of a movement is a great veteran move that, again, I have never seen Russ do.
Yeah, Rodgers. You wouldn't think of Rodgers as a fast guy or even that quick, but he's just very elusive in the pocket.
And this is why. Again, the footwork is phenomenal. And Russ, again, he has great footwork. Okay, but he doesn't have this type of footwork. He gets into panic feet, and as soon as your feet go from bouncing a little bit, because some people there's two modes of coaching. Do you want to chop your feet, or do you want to kind of bounce on your toes? Well, Aaron's from the school of let's just kind of bounce on our toes, stay balanced. Yeah, toes. Well, that shift of the weight forward suckered everybody into the middle just for even one step. Kind of like last week when we saw Goff do that pump fake and it drew three guys in for just one stride, and then he threw it to the swing, and then the guy ran for 40 yards. Aaron does that great. Same thing here. Okay, seven guys able to protect. Tight end, running back, he can keep them in or not keep them in. Hybrid West Coast offense. Which, again, I've got the whole playbook, Norb. We're going to have a fun time this offseason because I'm going to help you win those Madden games with it, too.
Yeah. I've always wanted the West Coast whole idea has been somewhat, I vaguely understand it, but never really knew the intricacies. So I'm actually looking forward to really understanding what they mean when they say the West Coast offense. So
I ran it probably 75 to 80% of my years as a coordinator. I ran the West Coast offense, unless I was just loaded with running backs, and then it may throw a team off every once in a while with a wishbone or triple I, but I loved the West Coast offense because I loved Bill Walsh, and the first clinic I ever went to was with Bill Walsh, and my mentor, who was ranked one of the top coaches of the 20th century, he and I sat and had a lunch with him and everything. I mean, it was unbelievable, unbelievable experience. So here again with Rodgers, and again, don't look at this like Aaron Rodgers. Think of this as our offense with Russell Wilson, the things that he needs to do to become better, because it's not like Aaron's doing anything spectacular here that Russ can't do. It's just I have never seen Russ really evolve into these. He's not getting better overall as a quarterback. Yes, 4,000 yards. Yes, we're winning a lot of games, but he has to do something better. I mean, look at the presence right here, and this is my favorite thing about Rodgers, Brady, and Brees, because you would say that those three guys aren't the scrambling type. When guys can't scramble, they have to learn how to move the pocket and step into a moved pocket. So let me say that again. They need to learn how to move the pocket as well as step into a moved pocket. This is stepping into a moved pocket, because as he drops back, the pocket starts to break down. It's no longer the V that we like to talk about, right? That V pocket. There's a press up on the inside. So now a mini V is going to take place over here to the side. Well, what is Russ going to do in this situation? He's got one of two things he's probably going to do.
Russ normally ducks and then tries to spin out somewhere, or step up and try to escape through the front. He's going to either try to quickly escape, or in my opinion, he's going to reverse pivot. Russ loves the reverse pivot. And yes, there's times where he does the pirouette move and it's great, and then he gets some extra yardage. But if you're going to be the elite quarterback, you have to be poised, because even though he's not going to throw to him, look at this guy right here, wide open. Okay, he's got a guy right here. He's not panicking. Aaron Rodgers does not treat throwing out of the end zone like throwing out of the end zone. He treats it like another play. I'm going to trust my lineman. I'm not going to panic. We've called our play. They're still only rushing the same amount of guys, so nothing's different, right? It's like swinging the golf club. You don't swing it harder because you're further away. You swing with the same type of stroke. So here he is, Aaron Rodgers doing his thing here. See how he just stepped up into that? He just easily stepped right into a second pocket after the first one collapsed. So he's back, and then he's forward, and then he throws it. Yeah, I saw that play. It reminded me, because we were in a similar situation where Russ got sacked at our 1 yard line, and it felt like this. And I first saw this like, oh, they're going to sack him in the end zone. But nope, he just slid over and never panicked. Like you said, he did spin out, didn't rush out of there. He just slid over.
But he doesn't do it consistently. And consistency is going to be and that's the accountability side. right? You can have players that are great. I mean, we see players all the time and then wonder, why are they not in the NFL anymore? Right? They were like a one-hit wonder. They're either a great season, a great few games. They play a great game in the Super Bowl, and then they don't show up as a wide receiver the next year, and they're gone. We don't know where they went, right? So you have to do it consistently all the time because you're just so mechanically sound. So here again, just the patience and the ease of the throwing. And with me, Norb, the people like to say that, you have to throw off your front foot and you have to do this. Yes, I will always talk about the 90-degree rule with your feet. Other than that, the game has evolved. Quarterbacks are so strong. They can throw leaning backwards. I mean, look at Mahomes. Mahomes is throwing no-look passes now, right? So that stuff doesn't bother me, the way it used to bother every single coach. You have to be balanced. You have to do this. You have to do that. Aaron Rodgers is phenomenal with just kind of the arm throw. And this is what I think the last play here. Again, West Coast offense. When you are running the ball well, okay, when you're running the ball well and when you're doing high percentage passes like we're doing, now as this game was still close at this point, okay? They hadn't gone up the second score. So now all of a sudden the Rams are putting guys in the box. It's only 2nd and 6, but they see again that there's an extra lineman here. They've got 2 tight ends. It's West Coast philosophy because West Coast philosophy is bootleg and sprint out and play action, quick stuff right there. Well, what do you get if you have a quarterback who runs a great Bill Boomer Esiason, the Peyton Manning, those quarterbacks that run great bootlegs? There goes this whole defense. And then he's just sitting there nice. I mean, that's just an easy toss. I mean, I would love to see that more than let's drop back and let's just fling it as far as we can, a bunch of times. I just go watch.
And you don't see it. You don't see it on this view, but the corner and the safety, they both bit as soon as he did that play action fake. They took a step forward to help support the run, and that's what gave the receiver the opportunity to get that separation. Just a step.
It's unbelievable.
Right there.
Yep, and they're all, just gone. It is literally a one receiver route.
Right.
No, I think people would freak out if we said, "Oh, we're just going to run one receiver routes." You know who used to always run one receiver routes? I'll give you a slew of them: Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Michael Irvin. A lot of those guys back then. Now, coordinators, coach, they don't feel like they can, and also now you get a LaFleur, you get Shanahan who's doing it. Other guys are saying, "Hey, let's just max protect if they think we're going to just block because the tight ends stay in here and block." So both tight ends, they give the look of a run because nobody's really leaving. So it just looks like these guys are just going to go block. And that's why everybody bites on it. Just easy pass.
Yeah. So again, real quick, I want to recognize there's some super chats you might see on the screen, but I want to announce Drive Swizz way back said we had an interview with Adam Gase. Really hope we don't sign him. That's the one. I'm sure you will. And we got 30 minutes or so we're gonna have to speed things up, make sure we can get through the things.
Well, we're good. This is the last day, and then there's just bonus stuff at the end of the call. So
and then Kobe Jones says maybe we should draft a QB to push our QB to higher standards like the Packers did this year.
Who was that said that?
Kobe Jones said that.
Kobe Jones. That is the number 2 bullet point that I have on my
wow.
sheet.
On point,
so
Kobe.
You actually brought something that I think is a strong point. If you're not getting pushed,
yeah.
Go ahead. No.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, and then Chef Jack Attack is definitely anxious to get some comments in the phone calls. But what do you got? You got one more play here?
Yeah, last little piece. Last little set. Now, I'm going to show you a couple plays here in a row. This is a simple, basic dive play. The linemen are going straight. There's no counters. This is the Rams team we couldn't run against. The last play went for 11 yards. This play went for over 40 yards. It's just 5 or 6 guys up front. They're just straight ahead blocking. All 3 of these plays are just straight ahead blocking. Okay, that's all it is. Now, this is the last play because it's my favorite. This is arguably my favorite play of the entire season. And this is why I think Aaron Rodgers is the best. And this is the antithesis of what Russ does. Is what he does right here. I could not click my stopwatch fast enough to get this time down. Watch how fast it goes from into his hands, out of his hands, in his hands, out of his hands.
Yeah, less than a second.
It can't be covered. And he does it right here again. Boom. It's not even a called play. It's just an eyeball look. I mean, Norb, it's unreal how fast he's able to do those.
Right. And Jalen Ramsey, he tries to jump it. No one's quick enough to beat that release, which has driven me crazy. Like that exactly.
They created
the timing
leverage.
Yeah.
When you create leverage, you do things. But again, we don't see Russ ever. And how many times do we say, geez, if he could just get the ball in the shotgun snap and just throw it, just hit the slant, hit the hitch. But he hits it and he pumps and then he's bouncing. And again, I get that guys are coming in his face, all the time, and you're getting hits. And anybody after they're getting a few hits, they're going to struggle. But man, you look at that and you look what some of these other teams are doing. Man, this to me is like the perfect offense for Russ. I mean, it is the perfect offense. So I hope that's.
Yeah. And I guess the bottom line there is that he's doing things that technically we could do. It's not like there's some superhuman feat going on. It's just awareness, being able to actually execute and make those decisions at that time. So,
all right, and this is and then we go to Chef Jack. This is the type of offense that makes everybody happy. Coach's running game, running backs get the football a lot. Top star receivers getting the ball. Quarterback's making plays. He's going to be MVP. Like, doesn't that sound like all the things we have right here, right now? It's the exact stuff we have right now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what'll help Russ.
All right, should we go to some calls?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do them quick because, again, we got about 30 minutes or a little bit less. All right, let's go to first Chef Jack Attack. Jack, welcome back to the show. What do you got for Coach Marsh?
What's up, guys?
Not much.
Chef Jack Attack.
Yeah, what's up? So, you guys have a lot of good points that we need to be consistent with our coaching, and Russell Wilson needs to be consistent. But what I have to say is, I think most of it's coaching, and when Russell Wilson is coached right and playing at his best, he is the best football player in the world. He is so good when he's coached and playing at his best. And it might be close with him and Mahomes or Rodgers, but when he's playing at his best, he is insane. So I already told Norb, I just want to say that our coaching is a big problem because in the first quarter, we don't throw that much. We were battling with Jacksonville, Washington football team, and the Chicago Bears to see who can throw the most passes. And Mahomes and Tom Brady and all those great QBs, when they play in the first quarter, their coaches are like, just be you and be great. Now with Russell Wilson, we try all these fancy plays. And then when we're down, then Pete Carroll's got to look to his man and say, we need you, Russell. But that should be the whole game. That should be consistently. We can't be battling with a Jacksonville, a no-name team, and we can't be battling with Mitchell Trubisky to see who can throw the most passes. And Seattle's number one when it comes to not throwing that much. So think about that. When he's coached right, best football player in the world. But guess what? He's not coached right. And it shows in
stats.
Jack
Attack. Do you know how many yards that Russ passed for this year? Roughly.
What did you say?
Do you know in the thousands how many yards that Russ passed for? In terms of 2,000, 3,000, 10,000, 4,000?
This year, I would say he did a lot more. I'm just saying, though, that, I don't know, a year or two ago, that couldn't be happening. And great, we're throwing the ball now, but it's the passes we pick. So now we're throwing the ball, I would say, a little bit more. And it showed. He was throwing the ball a lot of deep passes. And that's great. But I think we need to pick better plays to throw. Like you were saying, the West Coast offense. We need better plays to throw. It's one thing to throw the ball more, but it's another thing to pick good plays. So great, we're throwing the ball more, but I think we need better play calling.
Yeah. All right, Jack. I know you could talk for the whole rest of the show if I gave you the mic, but I do want to keep it rolling. But I'll let the coach respond to your point there. But
the thing is, you got I think there's a combination. You got decision making from Russ. Russ has to make better decisions on what he's doing, and our coordinator needs to make and I'm speaking as if he was still here. We weren't making any adjustments in the second half of the season. It was very evident. Usually, you can see some sort of adjustments that were being made, even just scheme wise. Teams change their schemes, all the time to adjust to what other teams are going to do. And when you become so predictable that, you're not adjusting to that, and you're continuing to just try to throw deep balls and trying to make those, running a lot of deep routes and running flood routes that are, real deep down the field. There were so many situations that were third and short, 4 and 5 receiver sets where most of the guys were going deep, and we'd end up throwing to, running backs were going into different spaces. But again, with Russ, he's not making the best decisions either. So many times we'd see that there was opportunities that were wide open and they were there where he either wouldn't throw it or he would just heave it up and just make some kind of little league decisions in what he does. But I think that when you have a situation where coaches are going to be, making certain calls, we did go 12-4, and we had an offense at the first 8 weeks of the season. For the last 3 years, you would say that Russ has been the MVP. For the last 3 years, you'd say the first 8 weeks of the season, Russ has been the MVP. But then teams figure you out, and you have to make adjustments to your passing game and to your running game. And, and we're one of the worst screen teams I've ever seen. And I think that's part coaching, but it's also part player. Russ does not throw screen routes very well. His timing is off on him. He just has no sense of where where the ball needs to go. So we need someone, again, I think if we get the coach that comes in that makes the right decisions, calls a high efficient offense, and lets him take control at times. That's what took place with Tampa Bay when they had their little slump. It was very, very evident that Aaron said, you know what? I have to step out of the way. And like you said, Chef Jack Attack, Brady, you be you. You be you. You call the plays. You make the decisions out there, and all of a sudden Tampa Bay's on a roll.
Yeah. Great points, Jack. Let's go to the next question from Nelson, who happened to win the NorbCam autograph football, which is on its way to you, man. So, Nelson, you got the next question. Nelson, you there?
Hello.
Hey, Nelson. So what's your question for Coach Marsh?
Well, my question is that on how, well, I could ask if I really wanted to. What do you think that on what we can do to build up this offensive line?
So that's it's an awesome question, because the offensive line is obviously where everything starts. The trouble is, who are you going to get? You can get some people in the draft, and you have to hope that they're going to evolve, and that is really a big time hit or miss. You go into free agency, and yes, there's a couple guys that are going to be out there, but you still have to meld all those people in there. And people often think that free agency is just going out and getting the best player that's out there. We have to hire the coordinator before we go get the offensive lineman, because certain linemen are better at certain things. Steve Hutchinson, he was so much better at run blocking. Yeah, he was great all the way around, but he was a phenomenal run blocker. That's why we run behind him and Walter Jones. They always say, hey, we're running behind Hutch and Walter Jones, the Hall of Famer to his left. So we have to placate to, what is the offense we're going to have, and then figure out which specific lineman, left guard, left tackle. I think those are key spots we need to have, so that we, if we're going to have a West Coast offense, the tight end's going to help. And I think we have great blocking tight ends. So I think that's going to alleviate some stuff too. So I think what I don't want us to have to do is constantly, move guys around, rely on the left guard having to go to right tackle and those type of things. That just gets you into a world of hurt.
All right, good points there. Let's go to DK and Norb, our goats. I know you had a conversation. Hey, welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Coach Marsh?
Yeah.
My question is, I was just looking up Chris Carson's stats and just the run game stats. And he had 738 yards this season. And I was like, really? So I looked it up again, and he had 738 yards, rushing yards. And Russell Wilson's stats, for the first 5 games, when we were on that 5-game winning streak, they were above 50. And right after that, they were just in the 40s, probably low 50s. I think we were a little bit too confident in just trucking the ball down the field. But we didn't focus on Chris Carson. And Norb said in the Rams game, just run the ball. And he said before the game, whoever establishes the run game first is going to win the game. And what did the Rams do? Kept on pushing it right through our D-line. So I think if we draft, a good running back, or what do you think, if we draft a good running back, will we depend more on the run game, or will we depend on the deep ball just trucking it down the field? Because obviously, towards the end of the season, people started to figure it out. And when they started to figure it out, we just completely corrupted, and we started losing. Yeah. So,
all right.
So I think we got how long have you been a Seahawks fan?
Oh, hold on a second. Go ahead. DK Norb
which we
goats.
rely on more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Marsh was asking how long have you been a Seahawks
when
fan?
did you become a Seahawks fan? When about?
Yes,
During
and then after
the
this,
Super
but I
Bowl
was
years? Were you a fan during the Super Bowl years or after the Super Bowl? That's okay. My point is, I don't know, based on, I'm trying to kind of get a sense of the age in terms of, if you remember during our Super Bowl run, we had this guy called Beast Mode, right? And so the reason why Russ was so successful, because I want to keep us kind of back to, focus on the Russ piece, is because he had a phenomenal running back, right? And so when teams have a great to phenomenal running back, it just opens up everything in the passing game. It opens up the screens. It opens up, all the different routes you want to run. It opens up draw plays, which is kind of the hybrid run to the pass, right? I mean, it's a handoff play, but it's the play that works because you're able to throw the ball, run the ball, all those other things. So, my concern with Chris Carson, and I'm a huge Carson fan. I know Norb doesn't like him very much. I'm joking, Norb. He's great, but sometimes the car gets into too many accidents, right? And there comes a point where, man, is the fender going to fall off next? Is something going to fall off next? So, I still think he can get up to 60 on the highway, and I love how he plays, but eventually there comes a point where, the life of a running back isn't that long, and he's already surpassed that average life of a running back, and he's got some wear and tear. So, yeah, I would love to see us go after a back. I don't want us to use a high draft pick on it, but if we can find, if we can get one of those, get like a Russell Wilson, and Bobby Wagner, the guys that we were doing a great job of drafting those, little upper mid to early rounds, I'd be all for it. Let's get a guy that can, be a nice counterback to Carson and a quality backup that when he goes in, we don't go, oh man, we've lost Carson. It's like, man, next guy's coming in. He's great. Like he's got speed, or he can do this, or he catches great out of the backfield. Someone that gives us, 3 or 4 of the 5 tools that you have to have as a running back. And we just haven't had that in a backup. And my concern is if we're going to go more heavy run, again, love Carson if he can be that 18 to 22 carry a guy back, but he hasn't proven that he can do that all season long.
Yeah, and I think you just pay him less because you'll probably have to have a crew of running backs behind him. But my point was, in the Rams game, his average for that game was 4.8 yards per carry. And you know what Cam Akers' average was in the game that he tore us up in? It was 4.7. So
yeah.
Chris Carson actually had a better running average, but he was given the ball almost half the amount of times as he was. Anyway,
and running average can be kind of relevant, right? I mean, if they get one if I
big
get
play.
a 98-yard run and a 2-yard run, I get a pretty good running. So
true, but I don't think Chris Carson didn't get any big explosive runs. Cam Akers did.
That's my point. That's why I love Carson, because I think Carson is that great back that gives you second and short and third and short situations if you give him the ball, even if you just give him the ball once out of every 3 downs. But when we go out there and go sack, deep ball, and the next series go deep ball, sack, and then run the ball like we did the first 2 drives of the Rams game, that doesn't put us that's no personality of your team right there. That's just saying we're going to do what we've been doing all year long, and we beat the Rams 2 weeks ago with this. We didn't do anything different than we had done 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Kobe Jones in the super chat says, what would you guys think about us going to get Mark Ingram? I don't know. You got a quick thought on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, to me, it's all about we like the tough runner, and I think Aaron can fit that bill. So, I would have no problem if the price is right, and I don't want to get into salary cap stuff and all those things. But, if we were able to land him and it didn't impact the rest of the team as much, I think it'd be a very solid addition to have him. And I think he'd be hungry. I think anytime a guy is either getting cut or getting traded or whatever, they kind of come with that chip on their shoulder. And Pete loves those guys. Pete loves the land of misfit toys, but he does a great job of getting them settled. So,
all right, let's go to Nick LeBeau. Nick LeBeau, you got a question for the coach. Nick LeBeau, you there? All right, maybe he's off for a second. Let's go back to him.
I want to answer some of it. He just put, I think it's Knights fan. He asked a great question in terms of, stop criticizing Russ. What would he say if he'd watch this? I think, honestly, knowing Russ the way I do, that he's done this more than we are. I mean, we're barely scratching the surface. No one is more, no one's harder on himself than he is. That's the fierce competitor that he is. If he wasn't that way, I wouldn't do this show. Wouldn't even do it. But I know the fierce competitor that he is. And by know it, I mean, like, I know people that literally know him well. So I'm not just saying as a casual guy. That he is such a fierce competitor, and he's so into studying film, and that's why we love him, because he's like that. So I'm not worried about, first of all, I hope he is watching the show because it'd be awesome for Norb. But at the same time, he's already gone through the film. He's already looking at the things. He's probably already doing his workouts and doing all that type of stuff. I'm certainly not saying anything that he doesn't know. This to me is more about helping others see, what we need. And again, he's still a great quarterback, but I think he can be elite if we get the right marriage in the offensive coordinator.
Right. And I think people shouldn't misassociate being critical with no longer supporting our team. That
Totally.
You probably didn't hear again the Coach Marsh saying he loves Russell Wilson, wants him as our quarterback, but these are things that he needs to do to get better. That doesn't mean you don't believe in him or don't back him up.
And
That's
in
two
a
totally different
utopian
things.
world where everything was perfect, we would all root for the helmet. Right? We would all just root for the Seahawks helmet.
Right.
And then it'd be like,
Yeah,
hey,
and
okay,
with blinders on, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of sports and being a fan. Everything you get to second guess and all that type of stuff. So yeah, but it's a great comment, But I wanted to address it just so that we could make that difference.
Yeah. Let's go to BJ in the call. We got about 10 minutes left of the show. BJ.
Yep.
Hello.
Yep. BJ, what's your question for Coach Marsh?
Hi, Coach Marsh. So Pete Carroll obviously said he wants to run the ball more, and in the second half of the season, I think teams started to play more two guys deep and trying to prevent the big deep plays and letting go all the short passes to the tight ends, running backs, or any small routes, and essentially saying, you can do that. We're okay with that, but as long as you don't do any of this behind us, we're okay with that. And I think, we just kept trying to throw the ball deep and not taking those short stuff, because, if you add 5-6 yards, every play, that's huge because, instead of going for an incompletion down to deep, I don't think that's worth it. And I think, Brian Schottenheimer should have seen that. And in the playoff, we saw our tight ends, well, I did, drop some passes that could have gone for 5-6, maybe a first, but they dropped them. And I'm like, what is happening? You guys are studs, but this is the playoffs. We need you to start playing like we know how you can play. But they're just dropping passes. And do you think that we need to go after a tight end that's going to be a stud, in that area, like George Kittle, where he's going to be okay with doing anything? He wants to block. He wants to help out the team instead of going after his own,
All right. So I'm going to cut you off there. Just we're running short on time. So Coach Marsh, go ahead and I think we know what the question is there. Thanks for the question, BJ.
You know my feeling on tight ends. I'm going to say it again. Tight ends are the most underrated. It's the most underrated position in all of sports. So, if you have a chance to get a great tight end, heck yeah, you go after it. That being said, and all the great teams have had great tight ends too. But that being said, I actually really like our slate of tight ends. I'm a huge Hollister fan in terms of how he blocks and sets things up. Yes, they dropped some passes, but they also came through on some other things. I think sometimes that's just a byproduct of, when the things just aren't going very well. But yeah, I think we're okay from that standpoint. I wouldn't put too much stock into trying to find a tight end. I think we have other major areas, offensive line, corner. And in terms of your cover two piece, to say real quick, the evolution of defense was, people playing man-to-man for years, decades. And then all of a sudden cover two came into play. Cover two in the early 2000s. Everybody went to cover two and Tampa 2 and all these things where, two guys were deep. And then everybody went to cover 3, where guys are dropping 3 people back, which was a lot of what the Seahawks ran with the Legion of Boom and some of those cover 3, cover 4. And now cover 2 has been what's come back again. And I've heard a few pundits and even my, stuff I've seen when I've watched the all 22 film. Russ really struggles against cover 2. And when I say really struggle, I mean really struggle for his level. He doesn't struggle for the average quarterback. But he doesn't recognize rolled coverages as well as I think he could. And I think he forces the issue sometimes. But again, not being in the play calling system and knowing that Schottenheimer had gone upstairs and should be able to see that, I was really surprised a lot of times that we wouldn't check out of stuff where it seemed like we were running plays right into the cover 2. And I just don't think we see those high safeties very well. And I'm not talking see them. I'm talking how we see the play. If you were to watch it from the top down, how our players would maneuver within the space that's created in cover 2.
Yeah. So, Coach, we got about 7 minutes left before we have to wrap the show up. So, do we have enough time to go through your players?
And then I've got my selection for offensive coordinator.
Okay.
I've got a selection for you.
All right.
So let me
go to the screen.
So, I'm going to go to the screen in a second. the play I'm going to show, the bonus play, actually came from a comment. So I was going through the comments. You'd ask people, what would they like to see? And then someone brought this up. And again, I'm so sorry that the quality is coming across odd on your guys' screen. It's clear on mine there's an issue. But so here's from years ago when we were playing against the Dallas Cowboys. It was 2006. It was a playoff game, and we were up 21-20. And Dallas had come down all the way to the 2-yard line, and now they're about to kick a field goal. This is Tony Romo, the guy. I'm bringing this conversation full circle. Okay, this play, I think, impacted his career the same way the interception has impacted Russ. That's the main reason why I've chosen this play. A guy who we know he was a really good quarterback, but he just couldn't get over the hump. Now, Russ won a Super Bowl. He didn't. However, I think, and a lot of people think this way, that this was the play that really impacted him, and it was him dropping a field goal snap, thinking he has a touchdown. Babineau makes a great play, and now we end up winning the game. And here's quarterbacks usually weren't holding back then. He had just taken over midway through the season for a guy by the name of Drew Bledsoe, and you can see how he bobbles it. When he bobbled it on that play, he goes over to the sideline dejected. Parcells didn't talk to him. Parcells resigns the following week. Lots of things took place that off season. But people know Romo. The regular season was great. He'd get to the playoffs, but he just couldn't win the big game, and I felt like that was part of it. But I want to also kind of show a little piece of what happened the play before to honor a Seahawk, an all-time great who I love. Lofa Tatupu
on Jason Witten. I already know the play.
There we go. So this is the play. No one ever talks about this one, Norb. They talk about the fact that Romo dropped it, and yes, we won 21-20. And as a side thing, the odds makers were very upset that we didn't get the 2-point conversion because Seattle was favored by 2.5. But we don't talk about point spreads on the show. So with that being said, 21-20, Dallas is going down. Third down play. They choose to play action, throw the ball, and watch the play by Tatupu right here. Boom, against a Hall of Fame tight end. He did that against a Hall of Fame tight end right there, and no one ever talks about it. One of the great all-time plays that Tatupu made was stopping him on this third down and keeping him from scoring the touchdown.
That's game over if he gets through. And even if he doesn't score the touchdown and gets the first down, it's game over as well. Likely game over. But
just the arch of the back, like people thought, they say, he's undersized, he's too short, he's not fast enough. One of the best tacklers we've ever seen in a Seahawks uniform. And you can just see how he's got his arch back. He's the low man. And yes, Witten sideways, but man, driving the legs, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, that was huge. Yeah, no.
All right.
Very fun game. All right, so
to wrap it up.
Go ahead, make yourself big there. Is there another play, or are you going big here? All right.
Nope, I'm going big, but I'm going to show you who it is. Because I haven't heard anybody bring this name up. Now, this might be this is a pipe dream to a degree. But knowing the situation the guy's in, and the fact that he's available, he'd be able to do it. Seattle has loved him. He's a guy that I don't think needs to do the stuff that he used to do. I think he's a guy that if all of a sudden someone went to him and said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Like maybe I'll call him. There's 6 degrees of separation. I'm sure I can find someone that could get me to him and just say, hey, man, I know your last season wasn't that awesome, but boy, oh boy, you could come back and run the West Coast offense for us. Because you know what his nickname was, Norb? The QB Whisperer. He's the guy who evolved Montana. He's the guy who really evolved Steve Young. He's the guy who evolved Brett Favre. He's the guy who evolved Matt Hasselbeck. Man, oh man. He loves Russell Wilson. He's a Seattle guy. He lives in Seattle. He drives his Harley. His wife's always gone because she works for a great foundation, so she's always traveling the world. I mean, shoot, she even missed the Super Bowl that they went to. Man, oh man, what I would give to just see that guy roaming the sideline again and just tell, hey, Pete, Pete, just you control the defense. I got the offense. Oh man, that'd be a marriage made in heaven because he'd hold Russ accountable. Now, is it a pipe dream? I don't know, man, but if he came for one season and then we trained someone else, if I was a general manager, I'd talk to him, say, I want a season or two out of you while we train another guy under you to be ready to be the coordinator, because they're talking about the quarterback coach and the Canales, who's the passing game coordinator. Those guys they're just not ready, I don't think. I'd love for them to get a shot at some point, but man, let's bring this guy back.
Wow, that would be pretty awesome. I listened to him.
He still makes. I'm thinking just offense.
Right. He still makes, he appearances on radio as an analyst and things like that. It's hard to, I hear the grandpa who's just sitting in his rocking chair, chilling out at his place over on the east side. It's hard for me to imagine him going back into the fire, working those long days.
2 words for you, Norb. 2 words for you. Dick Vermeil.
Wow, that's true. That's true. That's true. Came back and won it with the Rams.
I think he's the
true.
type of guy that can do it. He's beloved. People would give him, I just think we have the players, and Russ just getting that fresh start with a guy who knows it and knows this 3-inch thick playbook that I already have. Man, oh man, he was up tempo. Hasselbeck loved him. Everybody who played for him loved him. They said he was hard on him. Yeah, he made them all better.
Yeah. No, that would be, I think, more like a pipe dream, like you said, but it would be pretty cool. And not to mention the fact that it'd be nice to have him add one little page to sort of wipe off the 4-12 finish that he had here before he left the Seahawks.
Exactly. But here's who we're not going to bring in. I'll guarantee you, we're not going to upset Jamal Adams. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are out of time, so we've got to wrap up the show here. So I know we didn't get to all the calls. We got to most of them here. But, Coach, since you are the star of the Coach's Corner, I'll give you the last word here before we sign off.
Hey, heading into this offseason, I always think, even though I'm still a little bit bummed about that, it's always fun to look ahead. That's the beauty of being in sports, and I've said it quite a few times. We are so lucky to live in a city where we have a team that does so well. That I love the fact that we were frustrated at the fact that we lost a game in the playoffs, and that every year we get frustrated that we lose a game in the playoffs because it means we're a team that is always in the upper echelon. So again, continue to enjoy this, but I love that we're going into this offseason with lots of stuff. I'll have my channel launching next week, or in 2 weeks actually. So it's going to be some really neat stuff that's happening, that's going on. So excited. I think this is a fun show. I'm actually really looking forward to these because the other ones was pretty consistent with what we're doing. I think Norb and I are going to have a good time surprising you with little different nuggets we're going to do on the Coach's Corner. And I'm going to really be paying attention to the comments section. So not necessarily, I'll look at the super chat at times, but drop some stuff in the comments. If there's things you want to see on the Coach's Corner, put a comment in there because I'll read them and Norb will read them, and we'll game plan what our shows are going to be like.
Yep.
Because I want to make sure that you guys get what you're looking for.
Excellent. Sounds great. And so I just wanted to point out, you'll see on the screen the couple of boxes here that allow you. This show right here might be over, but we have so many more to talk about, and we have so many more that you may have missed from before. So click anywhere on the screen here on one of these images to see a previous Coach's Corner or our future show right here. And it's going to be great because this is just the start of many more to come. And of course, your shows to come too as well. So Thank you guys, everybody. And I want to thank again my sponsor, Daniel Dovin of Dovin Real Estate. Again, check him out. His information's in the description, and you can reach him there, 206-310-3362. Daniel, fantastic Seahawks fan, as well as just a great guy who will take care of you whether you're selling or buying a house. He's your guy. All right. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next show. Tomorrow we got the roundtable. So, as always, go Hawks.